Hi everybody and welcome to Room Goals, Find Your Student Housing. My name is Mathilde, I'm a communication student here at Han from Portugal and I will be your host for today. If you have any questions during this session, feel free to put them in the chat box and our support team will be answering everything, and we will also have a Q&A session in the end. So do not worry, everything will be answered and clear. With me, I have two lovely guests today. Hi guys.
Hi.
Maybe you can start by introducing yourselves.
Yes, hi, my name is Francis and I work in the Han Housing office and I'm originally from the Netherlands.
Hi Francis.
Hi.
Hi Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a third-year life science student at Han and I'm from Germany.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining me today and helping me get through this session. We're going to kick this off with two videos that explain how to get a student room in Arnhem and Nijmegen. The first video is for non-European students.
Did you know Arnhem and Nijmegen are two of the best cities to live in for international students? Are you a student from outside the EU? Stick with us for just a couple of seconds to see how to get a room. The first step, already paid the financial guarantee including housing? Our housing department will start arranging a room for you. Then Han Housing will send you an e-voucher within 2 weeks of payment. Are you starting in September? Then they'll start arranging a room in May. Starting in February? Then you can expect to be notified in or after December. You can use that voucher within 1 week to choose a room on the Book Your Room website in your preferred location. The quicker you are, the more choice of rooms there is for you. Choose the room that suits you best. You can also choose additional packages like kitchen utensils and bed linen. SSH provides the rooms in Arnhem and Nijmegen for Han students. You will now receive the housing contract from them. Sign it and send it back. Congratulations! You will receive an email from Han Housing before the start of your contract with information about the check-in time right before the start of your study and more. Finally, come to check-in week and pick up your keys. Time's up! What now? Make it a nice home. Welcome to Han. One last thing, the contract is always for 1 year or 1 semester for February starters. You can find the locations of Han Housing rooms at hanuniversity.com/housing.
So you just watched the video on how to get student room in Arnhem, Nijmegen for non-European students. Now we're going to watch for European students.
Did you know Arnhem and Nijmegen are two of the best cities to live in for international students? Are you an EU student? Stick with us for just a couple of seconds to see how to get a room. The number of rooms we're allowed to offer as a university is limited. We work with waiting lists on a first-come, first-served basis. After enrolling, send a request to han.housingoffice@han.nl as soon as possible so you get added to this waiting list. In the meantime, we recommend you also look for a room nearby on your own. Han Housing will send you an email with tips and tricks for finding a room. In your own search, don't forget to check if your room is furnished or if you still need to buy furniture, for example, secondhand. In June and January, we will know how many rooms are available for the Han waiting list. Based on your place on the waiting list, you may or may not be sent an e-voucher. Use this e-voucher to choose your room. Once you've chosen, leave your payment information as soon as possible. SSH provides the rooms in Arnhem and Nijmegen for Han students. You will now receive the signed housing contract from both of them. Congratulations! You will receive an email from Han Housing before the start of your contract with information about the check-in time right before the start of your study and more. Finally, come to the check-in time and pick up your keys. Didn't get a room through Han? Continue your own search. Found a room for yourself? Keep in mind that you'll need to pay a deposit. This can add up to a few months of rent. And time's up! One last thing. If you rent a room from SSH through Han, the contract is always for 1 year or 1 semester for February starters. After that, you need to look for a room yourself. You can find the location of Han Housing rooms at hanuniversity.com/housing.
Cool. So we just watched both videos on how to get a student room in Arnhem and Nijmegen. Just a heads up for non-European students. The information being given for European students is also relevant because after the first year, you also will have to find a room by yourself. So just keep that in mind that everything will be relevant for you. Francis, maybe do you have any remarks besides the videos?
Well, the videos show a very good overview of the process overall, but there have been some developments. So now we're working with a couple other housing partners. So it might be that you will get an offer from a different landlord than SSH. And for non-EU students, the video mentions that you will get a voucher after 2 weeks after your payment. But if you pay really early because you want to come here so much, it might take a little bit longer because all students get a voucher at the same time. So everybody has the same chance to book a room. And EU students will receive the link to the waiting list in their acceptance email. So you no longer have to email us directly, you can just do it yourself. But if you have any additional questions after the videos, you can always email us, of course.
Yeah, or you can also put it in the chat box.
Definitely,
because we will have the Q&A session, so people should not forget about that. Okay, thank you so much for that. Emily, how did you experience the journey of finding your first room in the Netherlands?
It was difficult, but if you take time and a bit of patience, it's manageable, definitely. But it took me a few tries to find a room that's in the Netherlands and also close to university, but it's fine. You can definitely find a room if you take enough time.
Yeah, I think consistency is key when looking for a room. So if you're going through that process, I don't know, take 1 hour per day or that time specifically per week to just go through the rooms, go through offers online, email landlords, just take time on it, really schedule it, I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that. And can you tell us a bit, what does a Han student room look like? So is it furnished? What's in there?
I think it depends on what kind of room you rent. I think we also have a collage to show. And as can be seen, it depends on the room, but usually if it's furnished, it's basic furniture that you need. And I think utilities are also included.
Yeah, actually, that brings me for my next question. Francis, can you tell us a bit about the different types of rooms that we offer?
Well, actually, all housing that we offer when you come here for the first time will be furnished. And there will be a bed, a closet, a table, chair, basic things. But there will be no linens or pots and pans in the kitchen. So that's stuff that you would have to buy.
Yeah.
And SSHN offers some packages to do that before coming. But they do charge an additional fee.
Yeah.
Yeah, so most everything is provided.
I did regret, I was able to get a room from SSHN on my first 6 months, and I regret to this day not getting the package that they offer for the kitchen because I had a really bad pan compared to my friends that did get the package.
Okay.
So I do advise getting those packages because you come here and everything is there already.
That's true, yeah, especially the linens. First night you can just get into bed.
I slept with a coat, so I don't advise that to new students to do that.
Yeah.
And as Emily mentioned, do costs include utilities?
Yes, with SSHN, utilities are always included. It is a pre-existing calculation. So if you have your heating on 24 hours a day on really high, they might come back to you for additional payment after you leave because it's an estimation, the utilities beforehand.
Yeah.
But it is included.
Yeah, it's included. So if you go overboard, then... Yeah,
exactly. So just be mindful. It's also good for the environment. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And about the waiting list, so I was very lucky to get it. For EU students, you mentioned in the email there's a button, right, that they can...
Yes, so when you're accepted to the university, our admissions office sends you an email, and in the email there's also a little bit of information about housing with a link to the waiting list. So you can just go ahead and do that, don't have to wait for a reply from us. But if you do have additional questions, you can always email us anyway. That's no problem.
And what would you say are the chances for EU students to get it?
It's really hard for us to tell because it really depends on how many students apply for that particular semester, what time you applied for the waiting list, how many people cancel, because that means some spots get opened up. So we really can't give an indication up front. Just be mindful to enlist in the waiting list as soon as possible, and we'll be in touch if we have a room.
Yeah, so it's a first come, first served type basis.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it depends a lot, right? Yeah. Did you get on the waiting list, Emily?
I did not. I'm come from Germany, so I thought my chances weren't really high because I live kind of close still. But I heard from a couple of friends that they actually got a room for the waiting list. It's just not a guarantee for you EU students. You should definitely still look in the private sector.
Yeah, I agree with that. When did you start looking for a room?
3 months in advance. It takes a lot of patience. The housing market, it's a shortage. But if you take, like you already said, the tip is really good. Like take a couple of minutes a day and follow up with landlords and use the lottery for SSH for EU students, then it's usually possible to find a room.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think it's hard when you're not in the country. So first year students, you're abroad, so it's always a bit more overwhelming, right? You cannot go there and go to the viewings. I mean, if you can, if you're the financial position to come here on purpose for the viewings, and that's great, but most people cannot.
Yeah.
So I get that it's a bit more overwhelming. So taking that time to really look through it and avoid any scams, it's the best. So taking a couple hours per week.
Yeah, and most students who put in the time and the work to find something while they're abroad will find something. But we do advise that if you didn't find a room by August 1st, to maybe defer your enrollment or look for other options.
Yeah. But as you mentioned, if they do take the time, it's almost always they can do it, right? Yeah, I think in the end, it turns out fine.
Yeah, effort is definitely important.
Yeah, and I think after the first 6 months being here, also it gets a bit easier because once you're already here, you have friends, they have numbers of landlords, you know people. So also once you're here, it gets a bit easier knowing where to go and attending viewings and so on.
Exactly, especially attending viewings is nice because that's also an important part of making sure you're not scammed. And you know a little bit about the culture, what landlords are looking for or not looking for. So it's great if you can have a soft landing here. It's definitely not required to find a room.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Emily mentioned the lottery from SSHN. Maybe we can explain what SSHN is?
So SSHN is the biggest student living association here in this area of the country. They are a non-profit organization that offers student accommodation. And most of the rooms that we offer to first-year students come from SSH. And they're a very reliable company, very ethical company. And so that's why we work with them.
Yeah, nice. So we covered a bit about the offers that we have from Han, also that it's important to independently look also for rooms for European students. Emily, maybe you can talk us a little bit about your current living situation?
I got very lucky and won the lottery for SSH. They built new housing situations for to accommodate for the shortage. And I now live in a 1-bedroom apartment. All to myself, which is a huge luxury I'm aware of. This was not the case before I lived in house share, like with flatmates, which was also fun. But I really like where I live. It's really fun.
That's nice. And do you have any tips and tricks for finding a room?
Definitely looking on Facebook ads, but of course be aware of scammers. But there are also some great tips on the Han website, what a scam could be. Then always ask for a viewing. And then one of the tips I can just give is persistency with the lottery system. For me, it took like 3 months on betting on the lottery to actually find a room with SSH. But in the end, I got there.
So it might be good to add that to what SSH does. They work with a lottery system. So if you would like to live in one of their rooms, you have to participate weekly. And you just have to react on time. And in addition to finding something outside of SSHN, I think it's important to respond to listings offered as fast as you can. Yeah, that will really help.
And we also offer some tips and tricks on our website, right?
Definitely. So the Han Housing website, there's a long list there of tips and tricks. Also links to websites where you could find housing and tips on preventing scamming.
Anything you would specifically tell people to be aware of when they're looking in the private sector?
I don't really hear a lot of bad stories, but a lot of the students who come to me not being able to find anything have very high standards. So they want something big, something cheap, something close to the university. So if you're working with a deadline, you need to start school, then I say broaden your search area, your criteria, because you can't find something perfect the first time around.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And as I said, I think once you're here, it's much easier to find exactly what you were looking for initially.
Exactly, and then you have a little bit more time, less pressure to find something.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. And going a bit more into making your new room home, what would you say it's important to bring from your home country, Emily?
Definitely something that reminds you of home. If it's like something, a memorabilia or pictures, like I always love to bring pictures, and then you can buy Patafix, and then you can put them on any room you rent because it doesn't damage the walls, and it just makes the room feel more cozy. Just something that also plants are great to make a room feel just more homey. It's just nice if you feel at home. The first few months are kind of wild because you start university and then you meet new people and everything is exciting and new and also scary. But then when you find your friends and then when you have something that reminds you of home, it's always usually really nice. And then you feel more quick at home.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also the Patafix, I do that as well. But I do think it's important to say, read your contracts and make sure your landlords are okay with that.
Yes.
Because if they're not and your wall is covered in Patafix, you might have an issue later on having to paint or, I don't know, take everything out of the wall.
And be careful with nails, because a lot of renters don't like if you just nail stuff in the wall, then it's not great.
Yeah. Definitely, once you move out, you're going to learn a lot about the housing market and what people do when they rent a room or an apartment, which I didn't know anything of before I came here. So definitely good tips. Read your contract very, very carefully and make sure you know everything you're allowed to do or not allowed to do, so you don't get into any problems. And how long did it take you to feel at home in a new city?
Like, I would say 1 or 2 months, because the first few of classes, like you meet so many new people and then also living with housemates, it takes a while. But once you found like your group of people that you like and you're settled with the classes, it's just really nice. Like you have so many new experiences, especially as an international student. And then also living with housemates, you already know kind of people, especially if they study maybe at the same university or even the same as you. And it's really great. It's just sometimes it can take a while. Don't be discouraged if at the beginning it's just all overwhelming. We all feel the same.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so you got along with your roommates at first when you came here?
Yes, definitely. Like, of course, there are conflicts about like cleaning and like, you know, you come all from different backgrounds and different expectations. So just a tip I would give maybe new people that live with housemates is just have conversations about a cleaning schedule up front, which seems very obvious, but sometimes you just forget.
It's not. It's not. Yeah, it's not that
And
obvious.
also be aware that you're living with people that you just have to compromise. And also be clear about communications, about what are do's and don'ts, and just have that line of communication is very important.
Yeah, open communication is key when you live with what are in the beginning strangers.
Yes.
Yeah, to know everyone's cleaning schedule, what they feel comfortable with. Maybe sleeping hours also, it's important sometimes.
Yeah, noise.
Yeah, that can be an issue. Maybe get some loop
Earplugs are must when you live with housemates.
Just to make sure that there's no conflict in the noise area. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Okay, I think those were all my questions, so we can move on to the Q&A. But very quickly, I will summarize what we went through right now. So if you choose the financial guarantee with accommodation as a non-European student, in most cases, Han will arrange the housing. For European students, you should start looking for a room as soon as possible. As we mentioned here several times, time is of the essence, so please do take your time going through everything, looking for rooms. Do a video call with the landlord if it's possible, so then you have time to come here and do the landing and make it feel like home and very cozy for you. And it's tough right now to find accommodation for students, but it's totally worth it, and it's incredibly fun to live in the Netherlands and abroad and be friends with your roommates and bring your friends over and not having to ask your parents. So it's completely worth it to go through the process. I think we can move on now to the Q&A. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, and Francis and Emily will answer everything now. I can see we already have one question. So during breaks, like summer or winter break, can you stay in the dormitory or do you have to go home? Maybe Francis?
Well, the housing that we offer, usually during the breaks you can just stay in a room, but our housing is either for 1 or 2 semesters, and there is always a period in the summer where there are no students in the rooms. There are exceptions that people come in February and stay for 1 year, and if that's the case, you can stay during the summer. But SSHN is also like renovating, so they might contact you to see like, oh, can we come this week to fix something?
Yeah.
But generally during the break, you can just stay, and in summer, usually there are no students.
Yeah. Emily, do you know about private sector? So if you have a landlord, if it applies?
If you have a landlord, it depends on your contract, but usually the contracts are for a certain amount of time, and then you can stay that certain amount of time. It's not dependent on the breaks of school because it's independent housing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's as long as you have the contract, the room is yours, so you can make the most of it. Okay. And next question, how to improve our chances to get a room? Maybe Francis? Can you give a couple tips?
Well, I definitely already mentioned some of it is to really check your standards, because especially if you have to find a room from outside of the Netherlands, you can't find the perfect thing on the first go. And another thing is to just respond really quickly. What I've heard from certain landlords is that they send out a message and then it takes a while to respond. And then because of the housing shortage, they have so many people looking for places that they will just move on to the next person if they don't get a reply fast enough. So those 2 things are really the most important, I feel.
Yeah, most important points. Nice. Is it easier to make friends if you live in a dormitory with others? Maybe Emily, you can answer this one.
I mean, it's definitely like one of the first meeting points. It doesn't necessarily mean if you don't live in a dorm that you won't make friends, because you meet so many people at uni as well, but it's easier because like you already know the people from your dorm, and usually if you live with SSH or in another student accommodation, they usually go to the same university as you, so you already kind of know a few people.
Yeah, I think it also depends a lot on your personality, right?
Yes.
There's people who just want to come home and not socialize. I've met plenty of people who don't want necessarily to be friends with their roommates. It doesn't mean you don't get along, which is also important, but yeah, don't want to be like friends forever.
No, that's definitely not an expectation to have. Like, you don't have to meet your best friend in the whole entire world in like dorms. It's nice to be friendly with the people you live, because if you lose that line of communication, it can just be less nice to live at a dorm at times. But usually all the people that come are very nice.
Yeah, but if you come here, it's definitely a good first touch point, right? Yes. Having roommates, living in a dorm. And if someone happens to not live in a dorm, then it's also no worries, because we do have inter-week. We do have all the first-year students here waiting for you, all on the same boat, just as nervous. So,
and also a lot of events organized by Students' Association. So there's a lot of meeting parties and other activities if you're not into parties, where you can meet new people.
Yeah, exactly. So, next question. How is the arrival process for housing to get into, I see my question is cut, into the room?
Well, as mentioned by the videos in the beginning, sometime before arrival, I will send an email with information about how to go about picking up your key. With SSHN, it depends whether you're living in Arnhem or Nijmegen. In Nijmegen, you pick up the key in the office. And in Arnhem, you have to make an appointment for key pickup. And key pickup is always at the Helix building. And that means that if you live in a different building, after picking up the key, you would have to arrange transportation back to your room. If you live with a different landlord than SSH, you will arrange key pickup with the landlord, and that's usually a lot more flexible. The central move-in date for the coming semester is the 29th of January, and we get a lot of questions if people can move in earlier, and unfortunately that's not possible, and that goes also for key pickup. Key pickup is only possible from the first day of your contract.
Okay, that's good to know, all the dates as well. And I think if people do really feel the need to come earlier than the key pickup, or the flight was cheaper, they can always just try to find a hostel or something for a couple of days.
Definitely. Yeah. Or go sightseeing.
Yeah, do
somewhere
a tourist
else.
life.
Exactly.
Yeah, before you become here a resident. Yeah. Where did you buy furniture? Maybe Emily?
I mean, the obvious is IKEA. You can make a nice trip out of it, get some food as well. But then also like secondhand furniture is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like to stimulate thrift shopping. So on the Han Housing website, you'll also find an overview of the thrift shops in the Arnhem and Nijmegen area.
Yeah, my personal favorite is Marketplaats.
Right.
Yeah, everyone goes there, and it's very easy, and you find a lot of free things, not cheap, but
That's
free
true.
stuff.
Yeah.
Which call me a Dutchie, but it's one of my favorite things to get. It's free furniture, because I think people just don't use it anymore. So they say, yeah, if you come here now and pick it up, you can take it. So
exactly.
Yeah, there's definitely tons of options when getting furniture. You can buy for secondhand. If you want it to last, maybe IKEA, it's better to take it with you.
Secondhand is also like, it just depends on the quality of stuff you get. IKEA doesn't necessarily mean it will hold for life.
That's true.
Yeah, we all know that.
That's true. Yeah, but then you can always take it with you. You know, it's firsthand. But yes, you have a lot of options to go through. Yeah, for sure. Next question, are rooms furnished? I think we've gone through this, right?
Yeah, so the rooms that are offered through Han Housing office are always furnished, but there are no pots and pans and linens in the rooms, and so you'll have to buy those yourself. Yeah. But some rooms in the private sector are also furnished. It just really depends what's on offer.
Yeah, I see it happens a lot on the private sector. If the previous tenant didn't want to take the stuff with them, sometimes they sell it to you, or they say, hey, I'm leaving it so you can keep it. So that's also nice.
Just in the private sector, be more aware that you usually have to accommodate for more furniture than maybe from renting through.
Yeah, for sure.
First time.
Yeah, it'll probably be the case that you will have to buy more things.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I don't see any more questions coming in right now. So I think we still have a little bit of time, so I'm going to just ask some questions of my own. We did talk about viewings, so I wanted to get a bit into that if nobody's ever been to a viewing, because me personally, I was very nervous the first time I went to a viewing and I did not know what to do. So Emily, have you ever experienced going to a viewing evening?
Definitely, but it's nothing to be scared of. It's basically like an evening where you're unfortunately not the only person to apply, so they're going to view different applicants that evening. And usually you come, you meet the people you live with, so you can also see, do I like the people? And the people can also see if you're a good fit for them. Just because sometimes in a housing dynamic, it doesn't work. It doesn't necessarily is a personal attack on you. It's just not, you're not the person that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And then you can see the common areas, you can see your room, you can see the area where it is. And depending on the viewing evening and what they write in the advertisement, sometimes they even ask you to bring something. So you can bring something from your home country, a dish or something.
Yeah.
That's always appreciated. But one tip I would always give is just be yourself. Don't try to be a person that you think they want to see, because usually they know if you pretend to be somebody. Just be authentically yourself.
Yeah.
I think it's just to add a little anecdote there. I received an email this week of a student asking about the tips that we give on our website, to say to bring something. And on our website, it says to bring a six-pack. And this person didn't know what a six-pack was. So a six-pack is a package of 6 beers. Not everybody drinks, and that's fine. So I just wanted to clarify that. But you can bring anything. Gifts are always appreciated.
I did not know about that tip of bringing a 6-pack. Maybe that would have been useful for me to get a room
but
before.
it depends on the student house, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You can already see from the pictures if one of them is holding a beer can or some kind of thing.
Then you know.
You can bring a 6-pack.
Yeah, forget the quiche. Just bring the 6-pack, because they're definitely drinking beer. Okay, that's a really good tip, actually. I'm also getting some for me for when I look for a house next year. Nice. Okay. I think that's it. I don't think we have any more questions. Thank you guys so much for all your help and for joining me here today.
Thank you.
We have another session coming up, which is Spilling the Tea, Real Student Stories. So it's going to be a very juicy session coming up. So please make sure to join that. If not, we do hope to see you here next year on campus. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Bye.